Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Jack the Lad podcast. On today's episode, we've got on Josef Braun. I've butchered that multiple times, but we'll go with that. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on.
No, not at all. It's pleasure is all mine. Without people like yourself, obviously, I couldn't do the podcast. So thank you very much. It took a while for us to get this in the bag as well, to be honest. There's been a few cancellations. But do you want to just give everyone your sort of background and we'll go from there?
Sure. So I'm a base jumper from the south of Germany, and I started skydiving when I was 19 years old. And I think I was very lucky to find the thing that I was truly passionate about in a very young age. So essentially, what I did after I started skydiving is I concentrated my entire life energy on getting to be a base jumper and to excel in that, like I've worked like several jobs, like being a mailman and doing stuff all to like achieve my goals. And now I actually live in a place where I get to do it going home from work. So I've really made progress in what I wanted to do in the past couple of years. And I'm pretty proud of where I am at this point. But I still have to work like a 42 and a half hour week in a hotel. So I'm not quite where I want to be.
Well, it's all time. So you mentioned there, obviously, you started when you were 19. Can you just run us through like how it came about?
A friend of mine started skydiving a bit earlier than I did, and I would always like watch people on YouTube, flying their wingsuits in the mountains and stuff, and I would always look up to that, like looking at that and being like, "Holy shit!" Those guys, they jump off cliffs and they fly a wingsuit and they're close to trees, dodging stuff. And I would always think that's the fucking pinnacle of human performance, And then my body picked it up, and 2 years later, I did the same, and I was hooked ever since. So, yeah.
Nice. So when you first getting into it at the sort of tender age of 19, how does the first jump that you did, or how is it? Are you tandeming, or how does it all work?
So you get a license in skydiving. It's almost like a driver's license. It's really regulated, and you can start off doing a tandem, but I just did a jump where you would have two people holding you on the sides, and you would pull your own parachute. And then under canopy, they would guide you with a walkie-talkie, essentially. So you would make 30 jumps, either coached or alone, and then you get your license. And that's when you get to play with other people on the drop zone. You get to share jumps and travel around and jump over the sea and stuff like that. And then it just progresses from there. You get better and better. And for some reason, it's become more and more fun the more you do it. You think like it's the quick rush and nothing is going to be like the first jump, which is true, but you get better. So it's an amazing learning experience, and there's always new stuff to do. It's an amazing sport.
Yeah, with you getting better at it, and obviously this is an assumption, would that not make it so that everything becomes second nature, so you sort of have more time to take it all in?
I mean, as you get better, you do stuff that's more demanding, so you're always hyper focused on what you do, right? So in skydiving, for me personally, that would be flying faster close to people. So you would put your body in the air in a very streamlined position, which makes it so you're faster, which is harder to control. And then you want to be able to stay close to people too. So you're always in a hyper focused mind while you do it. And a big reason for that too is because you're in survival mode. You there's a couple of things that you really don't want to mess up. So it really puts you in a special state of mind while you do it.
When you're talking about speed, then what sort of speed are you hitting?
When I'm skydiving, it's probably up to 350 kilometers an hour. But there's much more possible. Like in speed skydiving competitions, people get over 540 k's. You know, it's amazing. You can hear it standing on the ground, them cutting through the air.
What does that feel like traveling at that speed?
Feels pretty sick. I mean, obviously it's harder to control, so you have to stiffen your body up while staying loose. You kind of have to find a balance. It's hard to explain, but you like an airplane, which is very aerodynamic because it has a certain shape, so it's built in a way so it flies. Your body is not built to fly, but you can put your body in a position where you're kind of aerodynamic. So when you oh fuck,
That's all right.
yeah. I haven't talked on cam at all ever in my life, so I'm a bit nervous.
It's fine. It's absolutely fine. It's just two people having a chat. Don't worry about all the rest of it. It's just me and you just having a chat. With that then, so how old are you now?
I'm 24 years old.
24. So you've been in it for 5 years. So once you've been skydiving, how many skydive jumps did you do before you then started base jumping?
I did 380 skydives before I went to the mountain.
What is the sort of normal time, or is there not? Are they two separate sports in effect?
At this day and age, there's a lot of courses. Back in the day, like 20 years ago, you would have a mentor that you would find on the drop zone, and he would take you, and it would be a very personal thing. Now it has progressed into like a pay to play kind of thing, whereas you can give a guy like $2,000 and he will take you to the bridge and he will take you to the mountain and he will do a proper like planned out course for you. And most of the courses require 200 skydives, which is fine, but the more you do, the better, because it's the groundwork. You have to learn how to walk before you run, right? It's in skydiving you can do a lot of mistakes. You fly your body, you get used to the feeling, and if you fuck something up, it doesn't really matter because you have the whole sky to play. In base jumping, there's a lot of things that can be dangerous. You're close to the wall, you can slip on an exit. It's a lot of things that go along with it, and the more you've put your body in a free fall position, the better you're prepared for potentially gnarly situations.
When you're falling,
yeah,
is there ever been a time where you're thinking about anything other than falling?
No.
You ever you never get lost in thought? And no, I don't suppose you do. Thinking about
not really. I mean, it's a very much a high intensity flow state. Like I think it's a very, very healing thing to have in your life, and you don't have to be a base jumper to have this, or skydive or do anything crazy. Like my mother, for example, she's a musician, and when I watch her, playing the piano, I can like tell that she's in a very very flow state and in a very special peace of mind. She doesn't really think about tomorrow or yesterday, and that's how I feel when I'm jumping too. You don't really get distracted by anything else, and it doesn't matter what jump you do, because on every jump it is important to do the right things to survive. So you force yourself into a flow state, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned obviously mother there. What do the parents think about this?
Oh, they're fucking thrilled.
Really?
No.
I can't imagine mother took it well when you first told her.
Nah, I mean, they're supportive, you know, they're amazing. Like, I love my parents. But of course, if the son does something this stupid, you know, of course it has to be like the most dangerous thing ever, you know. They're
Yeah,
not
it's right up there, definitely.
psyched about it, but I think they see what I get out of it, you know. They see my passion, they see my excitement for it, and I think that's what kind of eases them a bit, or like essentially they just want me to be happy, and they see that I'm very happy with what I'm doing, so that's why they stay supportive. But of course, they're not like psyched about it, you know.
No, I can't imagine they are. So when you're, because I know absolutely nothing about skydiving or base jumping. So what would your sort of gear look like that you take with you? What do you have to pack? I'm assuming it's all specialist gear.
Yeah. So there's different gear for skydiving and base jumping. In skydiving, you have a main parachute and a reserve parachute, and there's even a system built in, so that can open your reserve if you're, for example, unconscious. You know, so you would turn it on, and it would measure the air density, I think, or the air pressure. That's how you can determine the altitude. Like altimeters work the same way, and it measures your speed too. So if you have a certain speed under like 300 meters, for example, it will open your reserve automatically. So in a skydiving environment, it's a very safe. It's very safe equipment. Um, because the parachutes in skydiving, they're built to like be fast and fun as well. So sometimes they can have malfunctions while opening. So that's what the reserve is for. And the reserve is built more like a base jumping canopy. It's a 7-cell canopy, which allows for really consistent and nice openings. And a base jumping canopy where you only have one. It's a really stripped down system. Um, there you so it's stripped down because you don't want a lot of factors on it, right? So the more factors you have on a piece of equipment, the more can malfunction. So you really just have a harness, like a climbing harness that you put on. You have the canopy that you would fold in the back, and I actually have one here, and a pilot chute that you throw into the air, and it opens the container and it pulls on the parachute. So it's very straightforward, but it's very reliable, and I trust my life in it on the daily. So
Do you pack your parachute yourself?
yes, it's actually a question that the base jumper gets quite often. Um, and there's no packer around where I am in base jumping, you know. Like I go to the mountain and um, I jump off a cliff, I land. Like who's gonna pack my parachute? You know, on a on an airport, like on a drop zone, there's people that actually do that. You give them like $10 and they will pack your parachute. But in the mountains, it's like no one's gonna do it for you, and it's only one canopy that you have that is gonna save your life. So you might as well pack it yourself. So you know what your pack job looks like, and you know that it works, and that's the thing that you can trust, you know. I don't want to leave it to some random guy that I give $30 and I don't know him, you know, so
Yeah.
he can make a mistake.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I'd prefer to pack mine rather than pay someone to
Yeah.
do it.
And it's not rocket science, you know, like you just make it all nice and tidy and you pack it up. It's not some crazy thing that like takes years of practice, you know. It's like once you know how it works, it's pretty easy, you know.
When you're when you like you said then, when you're jumping off of a mountain and stuff like that, is it just one and done? So obviously you land and then do you go back up, or like how does that all work?
Well, it depends on where I am. So there's really big jumps where you have to hike up the mountain for 5 hours, you know, and it's a all day mission where you take enough water, you take enough food, you're moving in like pretty gnarly high mountain environments sometimes. Like I've been to jumps where I was like happy to just get off the mountain already because you like climb some rock and everywhere you look that is not in front of you is like blurry because it's so far away, you know, and you're like, fuck me, you know. I just want to jump off shit. Like, why am I climbing now, you know?
Yeah.
But
Is
where I live, it's actually there's jumps where you can do half-hour rotations. Where if you have more parachutes, you can just like jump, take another one, go back up, and just run laps. You know, basically train.
So how long does it take to repack a parachute then?
For me, it takes 10 to 15 minutes, but that's pretty fast. Like a beginner jumper would take about 45 minutes to pack a parachute.
Ah, okay. So when you're jumping, you're talking obviously about skydiving. Well, skydiving to begin with. Do you get different size parachutes?
Yeah, and the smaller the canopy, the faster it is.
And what do
So,
you roll with?
so the measurements are in square feet, which for a European that's very confusing. Like I don't even know what a feet is, and square feet's like what the hell. But um, I have a canopy in skydiving that's 119 square feet, and that's already a pretty, yeah, I know it's a very weird metric to think about.
Yeah.
Um, but that's a like pretty fast canopy. There's canopies that go down to 61 that are like crazy gnarly, you know, like people die a lot flying like small canopies like that. It's the most dangerous part about skydiving, where most people actually get seriously hurt. Um, but with base jumping, I fly a 245 square foot canopy, which is huge. Like
Hmm.
in a skydiving environment, that thing would just be boring, you know. But when you end up in a sticky situation in base, it's nice to be slow and to have a lot of fabric above you. Because let's say you land in a tree, for example, because you're an idiot and you pull your parachute low. Um, it can come in handy if you're under a slow canopy.
Are you speaking from experience there?
Yes.
Do you want to tell us that story?
Well, um, I didn't get into the sport in the smartest way. So I had a mentor that would do some jumps on a bridge with me. But when I went to the big wall, I would essentially teach myself, which is a very dumb thing to do. Like I looked up a YouTube tutorial on how to set up my parachute pack job to jump it from a big cliff, you know, and I would pack it accordingly and would stand up there and I'm like, fuck, you know, I've looked this up on YouTube, you know. I mean, it all kind of worked out, but just because of a lack of knowledge, I didn't know how to steer my canopy properly. And I jumped in bad conditions as well and pulled my parachute low because I didn't have anyone telling me that I was doing shit. So I always figured I'm fine, you know. And I ended up in a tree and hurt myself. So
So when you get caught in, were you caught up in the tree, or were you able to get
yeah,
yourself down?
yeah, like properly. Like my canopy got hung up in one tree and I got swung into another one. And I would just hold on to it like a monkey and climb down the tree until I realized that I actually had like pretty bad pain in my calf. Like it's pretty crazy how adrenaline works. Like when you're in a gnarly situation, pain doesn't exist when you have to do something important. Like the second I got down from that tree, I realized that I was hurt. Before that, I could climb down the tree, no worries at all. But I didn't break myself. Like it was just a really hard hit to the calf. Like it's pretty hard to like break your bones through the calf muscle. It's a lot of tissue, so you would need like an insane hit. And yeah, so I definitely got lucky and got away with that. And ever since then, I tried to take a smarter approach to the sport, since you really only have one go at it.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you get the parachute unhooked?
Friends of mine did that while I was in the hospital.
Oh, so you disconnected and then you obviously climbed.
Yeah, I got out of the harness and climbed down.
How tall was this tree?
Like 10 meters.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah,
Like
so
30 feet.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was just thinking, obviously, for you climbing down with just your hands and your legs.
Yeah,
yeah. That's
in hindsight, it's a pretty sketchy situation, but yeah.
So
I mean,
go on.
Yeah, I think most base jumpers, if they have a longer career, they have a few stories where they look back on them and they're like, yeah, gnarly stuff. It's just the nature of the sport. Even if you take it really conservatively and you do all the right things, eventually there's going to be a day where all of your skill and all of that knowledge that you build up counts. So it's kind of like a pilot, you know, the guy that landed the plane on the Hudson River. Like he spent hours and hours in the simulator, and essentially flying a plane nowadays is like you press a button before you start. You know, the plane does everything, and eventually the one turbine goes to shit, or something goes wrong, and you need to execute. And that's very similar to how it works in base, because it's very easy. Like when you know how to free fall and you know how to steer a canopy, you just run off a cliff and like you fly a bit and you pull your parachute. Like it's actually pretty simple until it goes wrong, you know.
Yeah. So when you're base jumping, what height ranges have you jumped from, and when you're falling, what's your upper and lower limits of pulling your chute?
So my highest base jump, I actually don't have the exact numbers, but I think it's like 1,300 meters, which would equate to like 4,000 feet. Like that's one where you would just start the hike on the valley floor and get up there, you know. And my lowest one was 44 meters. It's like 130 feet ish. So in that scenario, you would have a guy like holding your parachute in the hand essentially, and he would just or the thing that is connected to your pilot chute, the thing that you would throw into the air normally, and the guy that stands behind you, he does the work of the pilot chute. So he will stand at the exit and he will pull out your parachute. So like that, you can jump things as low as like 21 meters if you're into that stuff.
I was just going to say that was going to be my next question. How low is like the world record?
I think the world record is like 17 and a half, but people have probably done lower into water, you know.
17 and a half meters.
Yeah. Yeah, we could like if I was on the exit point, we could just talk in a regular regular tone, you know.
That's crazy. I mean, 44 meters is that's insane as well. Like that's so low. I don't know why, but I thought that a sort of a general, you know, like yourself, like someone that sort of does it as their hobby, do you know what I mean, outside of their work, I didn't think it would be anywhere near as low as that. How often do
Yeah.
you jump at that sort of height? And
Yeah.
what does it feel like? Like, because obviously the parachute's straight out. So
Yeah.
yeah, like what does that feel like?
I mean, it is like for me, that's way scarier than going up to a big mountain, um, because that's just like your canopy is open and you like you unstow the brakes and then you land right away, and you can see the ground that you would hit in a very precise detail.
Mm,
So
yeah.
that was by far my lowest jump, and I haven't done a similar jump um, like that since I did that one. Like, it's not really my cup of tea, but there are some people who are really amazing in doing low exits and low stuff.
How long does that take from jumping at the 44 meters? How long did that take to get to the ground?
Like 5 seconds, 6 seconds maybe.
Bloody hell.
It's a short canopy flight.
It is.
It's pretty dumb.
It's not a lot of time. It's not a lot. It's not a big window to make sure all your ducks are in a row as well. To be honest.
But the equipment is so good,
Yeah.
the only reason why that is even possible is because the canopies are designed so well nowadays that you can just trust it to open. Like, after 20 meters, you'll have at least an inflated canopy above your head that's going to save your life. I mean, if you mess it up, you're going to hurt yourself, but you're going to survive that.
Looking forward, what does the future look like for yourself?
Well, I see myself working in like the skydiving environment at some point, because there's not a lot of money to be made in base. Like, you could get like a Red Bull sponsorship, but a lot of those guys don't even earn a lot of money. They just get to live an amazing life, which is awesome. But the real money, the real isn't skydiving, because there's actually a business there. You have like an operation with airplanes and um, all of that infrastructure, where in base it's such a niche thing. Like, it's very few people that are gonna pay you money for anything. Like, there's some people who make a living by coaching, but making a living is relative because they live in their van, and they live like a so-called base bum life. So it's a term, um, and I don't know if that's where I want to go, but um, I kind of just take it one day at a time. I'm having a lot of fun. I work full time while trying to keep it up as well, but I'm just gonna see where my journey takes me. I've built a pretty substantial social media following at this point, and maybe I can monetize that somehow one day. But I haven't made a dime since, when with 160,000 followers. So the money rain is still to come.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised you've got the following you have. I mean, your videos are insane, especially to a normal Joe blogger
Yeah.
like myself. It's just it's just crazy. Looking back, we're rewinding a little bit. What do you wish you knew that you now do? What do you wish that you sort of had knowledge of, or what was surprising about skydiving and base jumping?
Well, um, I mean, to me, what was the most surprising, especially about base, is the amazing community. Like, I got into it for the thrill, essentially. Like, I mean, you can run off a mountain and survive. It's fucking amazing. Like, I want to do that. And I thought that's what it is. And that's where it stops, and that's gonna be the thing. But when you actually get into it, you realize the amazing people that you meet along the way. There's such great characters and friends all over the world that I've built up relationships with, that I couldn't even have imagined before. It's such a loving and caring community in the sport. It's really amazing.
And finally, I ask every guest this at the end of the episode. What advice would you give to someone that's looking to get into skydiving and base jumping?
Well, don't stop, like I get the question a lot on my social media, like how do you start with this? Like, I want to get into it and stuff, and it's like one step at a time. Like, yeah, you have to go to the drop zone, and to get your license, that's about $3,000, and it's like, oof, and then you need equipment. It's like, if you buy shitty equipment, it's like 2.5 grand, and that's like another punch to the face. And like, it's so much work and so much dedication that you have to put into it. If your parents don't like own a fucking supermarket chain or whatever, you're gonna have to work, and it's gonna take a while. But if you are persistent, the victories are gonna come.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to give everyone your social medias?
Sure. I think my only relevant social media is Instagram. So it's Josef with an F _. Braun, Braun.
And that's Josef with a J.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast today, Josef. It has been...
Yeah, it was a blast. Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's been amazing just to get a little insight into the world of skydiving and base jumping to, a mere mortal like myself. Is it's always good, and it always amazes me that there is people like you that do the stuff that you do, because it's not something that I would ever put in my own wheelhouse. I'm perfectly fine with being on the floor, and I don't ever I don't know, I could probably be talked into a skydive, but yeah, I mean, the base jumping, especially at 44 meters, you can keep that. Definitely.
I will do. It's not my cup of tea anyway.
Oh, right.
I think you can tell by my Instagram as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Everyone, get yourself over to Josef's Instagram. It is it's well worth your time. And yeah, thanks again.
Bye bye.
See you later, everybody.